Good morning. You don't know me. I don't know you either. Good. We already got 1 point in common. 7 years ago, I applied for a job, went through a couple of interviews, and then I got a phone call. Dupont speaking. Yes. Yes. Oh, you're offering me the job. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted. Of course, I'm going to accept it. Yes, I'll send my details through so that you can send the formal job offer. I'm looking forward to joining your organization. Thank you. Bye-bye. I got a job, and I was especially excited for 3 reasons. The first reason is I was getting a new iPhone for free, and the company was footing the bill. The second reason, I was getting 3 days extra holidays. Pretty cool. But to top it all, I had a significant increase in my salary. And who doesn't like an extra chunk of income every single month? I joined the company. The first few weeks went okay. But very quickly, things started to go off and deteriorate. Mainly for 2 reasons. The first one is, it was a very large organization, very bureaucratic. For everything, you needed to go through an approval process. Needed a notepad and a pen. You had to fill a form that thick. 3 people had to sign it, and then you were getting your notepad and your pen. And that started wearing me down. But there was another aspect which was really killing me. The way they were working in project management. At the time, I was a project manager, and there are 2 ways to start projects. The first way is you assign someone 100% of their time on one single project. And the other way is you split people's time. John is working 20% of his time on project A, 30% on project B, and another 50% on project C. And that can work pretty fine. But in that organization, to make sure that people were actually working the allocated time on your project, you had to shout louder than the other project managers. People were only heading to whoever was making most noise. It was exhausting. You had to bully people to make sure they were working on your project. Wasn't working for me. My friends and family were asking me about my new job, and I was saying, it's okay. I was hoping it was improving. But sometime I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I had the thought of going to work the following morning. And I hated it. It was affecting my well-being. It was affecting my health. I was completely stressed out. And I realized that there was only one conclusion. There was only one way out. It was for me to resign from my position. And at that time, I made the determination. I took the decision that for my next job search, I wouldn't be so cheap in checking the culture of the organization, because I had paid it too much that time around. You've listened to me for a little while now, and you probably noticed that I don't have the typical Dublin accent. And that's because my name in French, Dupont, means of the bridge. My ancestors used to live next to a bridge. I don't anymore. Now I live in Castleknock, next to a castle. My background is in leading strategic projects, building the teams, and creating a thriving culture to deliver outstanding results. In the rest of our conversation, we'll find out why do people resign from their jobs? What are the main reasons? How do we define culture? What type of cultures can you find around there in organizations? And finally, and more importantly, let's go through a framework so that in your job search, you pay attention to the culture of the organization so that you don't accept a job offer only to realize that it's a nice job, but the wrong organization for you. The job site Monster says that 25% of people who accept a job offer regret it because it's the wrong culture. Why do people resign? That's a survey during COVID time in 2021. The number one reason why people resign for their jobs or resign for their job during COVID in the US was a toxic culture. The last point, poor response to COVID, I would argue that that's also a toxic culture. A friend of mine was working for a medium-sized company in Dublin, and during COVID, when the government had mandated, due to public safety, for everyone to stay and work at home, even though that he was working in IT, he had a laptop, he could perfectly work at home or from anywhere, his boss was forcing him to go to the office at the detriment of his health. That's a toxic culture. We're saying, okay, that was in 2021. In 2024, a different survey in the UK is also flagging that the top reason to resign is poor culture. The second reason is poor leadership. Poor leadership also includes not only the top executives of the company, but it also includes your direct manager. Because we know that people resign because they cannot get on well with their direct manager. And one of the reasons to stay in a company is flexibility. Flexibility in the wide sense, not only to have flexible time to work whenever you can or whenever you want, but to work from wherever you want or wherever you can. And healthy culture is also the top 3 reason to remain in a company. So it's not the top reason, and we don't tend to think too much about the culture of an organization. We think about it when the culture is bad and we realize it's time for us to leave. How do we define culture? In the domain of biology, culture is the process of cultivating living organisms in an environment of nutrients. There's 2 key words there. The environment, that's your mission, your vision, your beliefs. And nutrients, how is the organization going to support their customers so that they can grow their business? And how is the organization going to help their employees and their partners so that, in turn, they can grow the business of the organization? A more standard and classic definition of culture, it's the set of rules, norms, principles, practices, beliefs, behaviors. It's the DNA, it's the identity of the organization. In a nutshell, it's how we do things. This is an example of a culture on how to ride a motorbike in Europe. And here's an example of a culture on how to ride a motorbike in India. So what type of cultures do we have in organizations? On one extreme, we have cultures which are me-focused. It's all about me. Me as opposed to my group, or me as my group against another group in the organization, or me as my company as opposed to the rest of the society or the customer. The problems with me culture is so much about me that there's very little time to look after the employees and to look after the customers. And at the other extremes, it's all about us. If you're successful, I'm successful. If you succeed, I succeed. In this quadrant, we have organizations where there isn't much happening. People don't really care about the job and don't really care about each other. It could be that it's a very bureaucratic organization, and you know that no matter how hard you work, you know you won't get that promotion. Or it could be that you want to work, but there's such a lack of leadership and direction that you don't know what you're supposed to do. Or it could be that you made suggestions a number of times on how to improve the way we work, but you were never listened to. You were always ignored. And after some times, you stop trying very hard and you just do the bare minimum. And then we've got cultures in this quadrant where there's a real drive for results. Results matter. But you've got one head of department, they can't see each other with another head of department, they don't talk together, they give conflicting direction and information, and people are just completely confused. And in the worst case, the only thing that matters for the organization is a financial result at the expense of the employee, at the expense of the customer, at the expense of the law. And we've seen example of this with Enron cooking the books, or more recently with the Boeing 737 MAX concealing public safety information. And unfortunately, we do know what happened. 2 crashes and people dying. That's just one flavor of a toxic culture, lack of integrity. But it's also racism, tolerating, bullying. That's another flavors of toxicity. And then we've got organizations which are a lot more human-centered. There's a lot more of emotional intelligence being demonstrated. And in these companies, it's pleasant to work, but it can become complacent. You have a key milestone on a project which is missed, and nobody says anything. The tough conversations are not happening. And then we move to this next quadrant, where 1 + 1 = 3, because we're creating synergies. People work as a team. The team acronym means together, everyone achieves more. And in the best case, people are so compelled by the purpose of the organization that they do their utmost to make sure it happens. And in this situation, the employees and the customers are raving fans of the company, and they're doing the marketing for the company. Now, in your job search, what can you do to ensure that you end up in a company which is the right culture for you? It starts with you. You probably haven't thought too much about it. What it is you really like to do, don't like to do. Do you prefer to work in a team or work on your own? And what are the things that you're not willing to do at all? What are your red lines? Take a bit of time with a piece of paper and a pen and have this introspection to get to know you and what's the right environment for you to work in. Once you've done that, you've got to research the organization. Of course, learn about the job you're applying for, but more than that, learn about the organization in general. Go to their website. What do they believe? What matters to them? How do they present and introduce themselves? And go to sites as well like Indeed or Glassdoor. What are the reviews of the employees about the company? Don't just look at the number of stars. Read the comments to find out the pros and cons of working in that company. Once you've done that, check the news. Is this company building a new office in the city center? Or did they just release a new product? Or are they getting rid of one department? Or are they on a hiring freeze? It's useful to know these things. And now we start to connect. Who do I know who is already working in this company I can talk to get their opinion, their view of the company? And if you don't know anyone, go to LinkedIn, look up people working in the company in a similar role to the one you're applying, and DM them. And you write them a note, and you ask them 2 points. The first point is, you say, I came up to your profile. I'm very keen on applying for this job in your company. I love if you could spend 15 minutes of your time. I've got specific question about the culture of your organization. And the second question you ask is, do you happen to have a referral scheme? So what's a referral scheme? The referral scheme is a triple win. It's a scheme to incentivize, mainly used for medium-sized to big-sized company, to incentivize employees to pass on CVs of people they know to fill position that the company is advertising. Why is it a triple win? It's a triple win because it's a win for the employee. If you pass on a CV and the person gets hired, you get recompensated financially, you get money. It's a win for the company because maybe they're receiving so many applications, they cannot go through all the applications. But for sure, if somebody comes recommended, at least they're going to read their CV. And it's a win for the candidate because straight away you go on the VIP lane. Maybe they would have missed your application, but now you come being recommended, and at least they're going to check your CV and probably call you for an interview. And statistics says that if you're being referred for a job, your chance of being hired is multiplied by 10. So if you don't know the person, they've got an incentive to talk to you because maybe they've got a hiring scheme, a referral scheme. And if they do, they'll want to check you out to see whether they should recommend you or not, because they're only going to recommend somebody they think can do a great job because their reputation is at stake. You've connected, you've researched the company, now you apply. Hopefully you apply through a referral, or if you cannot find a referral, you apply directly. Sometime in the application process, they ask you why you want to join the company. Explain your reasons, and you can put a note as well why you think you're the right fit, you're the right match for their culture, because you've done your research. Now is the time of the interview. The interview is very often not well understood. We think it's a one-way process. The company is interviewing you, but it's a two-way process. It's an interaction. You're also interviewing the company. You want to find out if you want to work for this company. And during your research, maybe some employees were saying that they were complaining about management. It's a fair question to ask during the interview. You may say, I've read that some employees have got gripes with management. What are your thoughts about it? And the answer you're going to get will give you a lot of insights. The answer may be, well, that's a few disgruntled employees, ignore it, that's rubbish. Or the answer could be, we noticed that we had a couple of issues with some managers. We've got a plan in place to improve it and address the situation. And I suggest that during the interview process, you ask these 3 questions, or you want to find the answer to these 3 questions. Question number 1, does the vibe of this organization jibe with my tribe? Number 2, can I not only survive, but thrive in this organization? And question number 3, what is the ratio of we time versus me time? How many hours is a company expecting to work every single week? Congratulations, you just got a job offer. I'm absolutely delighted for you. Hold on a second. Before you accept your job offer, there are 2 considerations. The first one is, throughout the hiring process, maybe something was a little off, or there are something you're not too clear on, or it can be the conditions, or you may have some lingering question. Now is the time to get the answer and the clarity to your questions. And second consideration, the package. This is your best time. This is the time when you got most leverage. The company is committed to you. They don't want to go through the hiring process again or call the number 2 choice. They want you in the role. If you feel that maybe they're offering a package which is below market, and you have experience, you have skill to justify a higher salary, it's the time for you to ask for an improvement. And 3 situations may happen. The first one, very unlikely, they withdraw the offer because you're asking for more. Very, very unlikely. Second possibility is they tell you, sorry, this is the top of our budget, we cannot offer you more. You still did well in asking for more because you made your case, you stood for yourself, and as you join the company knows that because you were able to stand for yourself, you'll be able to stand for the company, which is a great value to have. And the third option is maybe they give what you ask for, or at least they give partly what you ask for. And that's great, because if you hadn't asked, you wouldn't have got. My friends, I invite you not to be blinded by the paycheck. If it's the wrong culture for you, you could lose more than your salary. You could lose your sanity. I wish you a fast and successful job search and a magnificent career.